Did you know the oldest pyramids in the world might not be in Egypt, but in Bosnia? In 2005, Dr. Semir Osmanagic was visiting the town of Visoko in central Bosnia when he noticed the pyramidal shape of Visočica hill. This kick-started a now decades-long journey to excavate the pyramid and surrounding area, and it's been controversial to say the least. Osmanagic and his foundation claim to have discovered the biggest complex of pyramidal structures in the world. The largest, dubbed the Pyramid of the Sun, is said to be both the tallest and oldest on the planet. They've also found a labyrinth of underground tunnels containing ancient ruins with a mysterious message from the past. So why isn't this being treated as the greatest archaeological discovery of the century? The official consensus from mainstream archaeologists and historians is that the Bosnian Pyramid is in fact just a hill. The European Association of Archaeologists has even condemned the project as a cruel hoax. So case closed, right? Maybe. Other experts around the world have spoken out in favour of the pyramid complex and verified many of the claims. If you have even a passing interest in alternative history or really alternative anything, you'll know that ideas that challenge the mainstream narrative aren't always met with the spirit of openness. So it can be hard to know what to believe. Ultimately, I decided I had to see the Bosnian Pyramid for myself. The Bosnian Pyramid is located in the city of Visoko, about 30 kilometers from Sarajevo, the capital city of Bosnia and Herzegovina. The Valley of the Pyramids actually contains 4 pyramids, the Pyramids of the Sun, Moon, Love, and Dragon, as well as the Vratnice tunnels, the Tumulus, and the Temple of Mother Earth. We booked a guide directly with the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun Foundation, hoping that they would have the most insight into the complex and the latest discoveries. Our tour began at the Belvedere viewing platform, which provides an excellent view of the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun, more so without a wide-angle lens. Here we were told the story of how Dr. Osmanagic discovered the pyramid back in 2005 during an unrelated visit to the city. The doctor holds a PhD in Mayan pyramids from the University of Sarajevo and recognised the distinct 4-sided pyramid shape of Visočica hill, but asking around the local area, he found that this notion had never really been investigated. Following this visit, Osmanagic secured permission for preliminary investigations from the Ministry of Culture, and we'd find out more about what was discovered beneath the surface at the next few sites. But one key finding came later that year, when the Bosnian Institute for Geodesy found that the north side of the pyramid was almost perfectly aligned towards true north, with only a 12-second deviation. An intriguing feature of many pyramids around the world is close alignments to the cardinal directions. The square base of the Great Pyramid of Giza, for example, is off by just 3.4 arc minutes, a deviation of about 1 millimeter per meter. But allegedly, the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun is more precise, the most precise in the world. We also learned that from a combination of LiDAR scanning, satellite images, and topographic maps, the full height of the Pyramid of the Sun was revealed to be 368 meters, making it the tallest pyramid on the planet. Another interesting element of the pyramid complex is the sacred geometry that can be found when you connect the various sites. When the tops of the pyramids of the Sun, Moon, and Dragon are connected, they form a perfect equilateral triangle, and there are perfect straight lines that can be drawn between some of the other pyramids and key sites. You can also observe a golden spiral when you connect the Tumulus, Vratnice tunnel entrance, and Pyramid of the Sun with the confluence of the rivers Vojnička and Bosna perfectly in the middle. We would learn more about the discoveries made when excavating the pyramid later on, but our next stop was the Tumulus in Vratnice. Tumuli, also known as burial mounds or barrows, are artificial hills made of earth and stones built over the remains of the dead, and they can be found all over the world. The Tumulus here in Bosnia is important for 2 reasons. Firstly, it's said to be constructed with a double layer of large blocks bound with an artificial concrete, the same concrete that can be found at the Pyramid of the Sun. We went into a lot more depth about this concrete when we got to the pyramid, but for now we were told that analysis of this concrete found it to be far superior to most concrete used today. Modern high-quality concrete has an absorption rate of about 3 to 5%, but this concrete here was found to have only 1%. Concrete is also measured in terms of how much pressure it can take. The concrete here was found to have a strength of up to 155 megapascals, which is a lot more than the strength of concrete we use today, which tends to top out at roughly 100 megapascals. Some of the rocks were said to weigh up to 20 tons, and this raised questions about how they may have been transported. Here we saw an area where a large block had fallen, covering what was previously some sort of entrance to the structure. Radar scanning has shown some anomalies beneath the surface of the tumulus, including a network of tunnels. Core drilling samples taken in 2009 found layers of artificial concrete about 50 meters down, surrounding a hollow space, suggesting there might be some sort of chamber. Further radar scanning in 2023 revealed another void about 14 meters deep. The second notable feature of the tumulus are the strange energy signatures that have been observed at the top of the hill. In 2010, a team of Croatian physicists detected an energy beam of 28 kHz at the top of the tumulus. A similar beam was also found on top of the Pyramid of the Sun, and this frequency would become important later on. Our next stop was the Pyramid of the Moon, said to have a height of 190 meters. As you'll see in a moment, this has a very different design to the Pyramid of the Sun. Here we saw a terrace at the side of the pyramid, composed of sandstone tiles of various sizes and shapes. This was at the base of the pyramid on the western side. You can see that there is a slight incline going up away from the pyramid at about 8 degrees, which our guide told us was for water collection purposes, to collect water from rainfall and direct it into reservoirs under the Pyramid of the Moon. And there are apparently connected water reservoirs under the Pyramid of the Sun and the Dragon as well. Because there is a high concentration of negative ions, the water is clean, and we would talk more about the role of negative ions when we got to the Pyramid of the Sun and the tunnels. You can also see a very slight step down every 8 or so steps as you move along the path. During some research later on, I found a video with Dr. Osmanagic explaining that the terrace slopes at about 8 degrees, and it continues to do that all the way around the pyramid, like a spiral or a ziggurat structure. This makes the design of the pyramid quite different to any pyramid that's been discovered to date. Unfortunately, we didn't venture further up the Pyramid of the Moon because it's technically private property, and our guide said the property owner was a bit unpredictable when it came to visitors. I think there have been some issues in the past, and reading the room, we thought we wouldn't tempt fate. But you can find some photos online to show that there are similar terrace-like areas further up the pyramid, including ones with much larger sandstone slabs than we saw. These slabs are layered and bound with clay, and analysis of organic material discovered between the layers has been dated to around 12,000 years. In 2007, the Institute for Materials from the University of Visočica confirmed that the sandstone tiles were of different hardness and porosity, suggesting they were sourced from different areas. Next up, we finally reached the Pyramid of the Sun. We climbed a fair few stairs up to the areas that had been excavated, revealing large blocks that we were told had been made from the same artificial concrete we'd seen earlier at the tumulus. In 2008, French material scientist Joseph Davidovits analysed a sample taken from deep within the tumulus, confirming it was a form of ancient concrete. Davidovits is an expert in geopolymers and modern and ancient cements. He is well known for his theory that the blocks of the Great Pyramid in Egypt are not carved stone, but are cast from a form of limestone concrete or man-made stone. He is the president of the Geopolymer Institute in France and holds one of France's highest honours, the National Order of Merit. The concrete was also investigated by Italian scientists from the Polytechnic University of Turin, who analysed samples from the blocks at the Pyramid of the Sun. They concluded that this was an artificial construction material that had been made by human hands. We were told that the foundation had found 4 layers of these blocks built on top of one another, and that the irregular shape of the slabs functioned to provide more structural resilience in the event of an earthquake. Initial analysis of the soil on top of the blocks showed that it was around 12,000 years old, suggesting that the blocks underneath would be older than that. But later on, fossilised leaves were discovered on top of and between the layers of blocks. These were carbon dated, revealing ages of around 20 to 30,000 years. This gives us a rough age for the pyramid. We saw some other excavated areas where the concrete material was slightly different, though we were told the incline was uniformly 45 degrees. Most, if not all of the blocks contained quartz crystals, which we were told transformed the electromagnetic field to between 28 to 40 kHz. These frequencies are associated with acoustic levitation, and though it wasn't said explicitly by our guide, reading between the lines, I think there's a theory that these large blocks could have been placed via some sort of levitation technology. We also talked about the high concentration of negative ions that are found at the Pyramid of the Sun. Negative ions are said to have a host of beneficial effects on the environment and human health. They can also be used to prevent food spoilage and for air purification, which is one of the more common uses today. High concentrations of negative ions are found in natural spaces like mountains, forests, waterfalls, and by the sea, while concentrations are significantly lower in cities and enclosed spaces. So it's not surprising that we'd find a high concentration here. Our final stop on the tour were the Ravne tunnels, located 2.9 kilometers from the Pyramid of the Sun. And this is where things got really interesting. This here is the entrance to the tunnels, which when it was discovered was completely filled in with large rocks, like a dry stone wall. Since then, the foundation team have been slowly clearing these tunnels by hand. And don't get too excited, that is not an ancient door. I did have a moment where I thought it was, but alas no, this was added by the foundation to keep the site secure. Anyway, in the tunnels, we're able to observe 2 cultural layers. Firstly, there are the tunnels themselves that have been dug through this conglomerate material, this compacted layer of gravel-sized pieces of rock held together with sand or clay or silt. Fun little geology lesson for everybody. This is a naturally occurring material, and it's thought that this conglomerate from the tunnels was used to make some of the artificial concrete seen elsewhere at the complex, like the Pyramid of the Sun and the Tumulus. So the pyramid builders and the tunnel builders are one the same. The tunnels were apparently dug through 30,000 years ago. I think this timeline is based upon the dating of the Pyramid of the Sun, which uses the conglomerate material that was removed from the tunnels, but I'm not 100%. The second cultural layer we can see is the larger rocks that have been used to fill in the tunnels, for some reason. The Pyramid Foundation have been removing these larger rocks to explore the tunnels, so you can, in a sense, also see a third cultural layer where the rocks have been removed and the Foundation have added reinforcing wooden beams. You can see what the block tunnels look like in various areas and side tunnels that haven't been cleared yet. The Foundation and its volunteers have been clearing these tunnels by hand, removing all these rocks, and it's a slow process. There's a vast labyrinth of tunnels, and they're focused on clearing a route to the Pyramid of the Sun, where they think that they'll connect. Our guide said it could be another 20 to 30 years before the tunnels to the pyramid are cleared, at the current pace. When it comes to dating the dry stone blockade, you can't carbon date stone. However, in between the layers of stone was discovered a piece of carbonated wood, which was sent to a lab for analysis and found to be 5,000 years old. So there are two civilizations here, one who carved the tunnels 30,000 years ago and one who blocked it 25,000 years later. And we don't know who either of these civilizations were or why they did either of these things. An interesting feature about the tunnels is that they are of various different heights, with higher sections and lower sections. And this creates a sort of natural airflow system, as the different air pressure causes the air to circulate. So there is this natural ventilation system throughout the tunnels, and you don't need any equipment for breathing, even deeper within the system, despite there being only one entrance. There was another entrance to the tunnel network that was found, but that was very close to the river and is now flooded. A key discovery within the tunnels were a series of large megalithic stones found at various locations. Some of these were discovered beneath the conglomerate layer, so it's thought that these were placed here before the digging of the tunnels. So there is potentially another earlier civilization involved. We were told that these megaliths were ceramic, i.e. an organic material fired at a high temperature. A small piece was removed and sent off for analysis, which confirmed it was ceramic, composed of sandstone, clay, and water. Some of the stones had symbols carved into them, which were initially thought to be runes, one of the oldest written languages in Europe, approximately 2,000 years old. However, the dating of the material that was used to block the tunnels was 5,000 years old, so the timeline doesn't quite work. A retired American professor named Bobby Scarf used Ralph H. Blum's The Book of Runes to decode some of the symbols, and she was able to decipher a strange message. The gateway is closed. We are at a standstill. We will have to act as warriors to defend and conquer until we can move again through the Stargate. And I would play the Stargate theme tune here if I wasn't worried about a copyright strike. But this message raises all sorts of questions. Did someone block the tunnels to protect us, or to keep us trapped here? Why was the gate closed? And when will it open again? But back to the blocks. Here is another one, estimated to be 3.5 tons. I think the previous one was 1 ton. And this one has 25 symbols carved into it. Some of them look like arrows, and we were told that they point towards the Pyramid of the Sun. Thanks to georadar scanning, it was discovered that there were quartz crystals evenly placed within the ceramic. It was also found that there were water reservoirs matching the exact size of the stones directly beneath them, about 20 meters down. So it would seem like these blocks may have been placed to highlight where the underground water is. We were also told that many underground water sources around the world emit geopathogenic radiation, also known as geopathic stress, which can negatively impact human health. Interestingly here, the radiation from the water below was said to rise upwards and connect with the ceramic block, and the radiation is modulated by the quartz crystal, generating ultrasonic frequencies between 28 to 42 kHz. These are those same frequencies also detected at other sites around the complex, which can be used for things like cell regeneration. And this electromagnetic effect spreads out throughout the tunnels due to the presence of quartz in the conglomerate. This was the third and largest block we saw, weighing 8 tons, and we were told that the lines in this block matched up precisely with water flows 21 meters below. In contrast to the other blocks, this one is sat on a pedestal made of sandstone, glued in place with calcium carbonate. Here we did a little experiment to see if we could feel the electromagnetic field on the block with our hands and fingers. And this was an interesting experience. I definitely felt some kind of prickling or charge in my fingertips. Throughout the tunnels, the Foundation discovered several accumulations of water. This small pond here had a surface of 10 square meters and was about half a meter deep, but others were said to be quite a bit bigger, up to 200 meters in length and 1.7 meters deep, with a constant temperature of 7 degrees Celsius. Initial analysis of the water revealed that it contained no microorganisms, bacteria, or viruses, so was safe to drink on that front. Interestingly, this is still water, there's no flow or movement, so compared to running water, it should be more susceptible to contamination. An experiment was conducted where they sent this water to an elderly home in Slovenia and compared the effects on people who drank this water compared with the regular tap water. Those drinking the tunnel water had better regulated blood sugar levels, blood pressure levels, and most interestingly, white blood cell levels. The water was also sent to Dr. Masaru Emoto, known for his work on how human consciousness can affect the molecular structure of water. Emoto's experiments showed that when water was exposed to positive words, thoughts, or music, the ice crystals that formed when the water was frozen were much more clearly defined and symmetrical. Water that had been exposed to negative stimuli showed more distorted crystal structures. His analysis of the water from the tunnels revealed a perfect hexagonal shape, suggesting it is more energetically alive water. Towards the end of our tour of the tunnels, our group came across an older Bosnian gentleman who was a regular visitor and wanted to share his story. He'd had some health problems with his hands, perhaps arthritis, and had undergone surgery for this. He finds that when he comes to the tunnels, he has much more movement and flexibility in his hands. He can move them more freely and without pain. He was 80 years old, and he told us that after spending time in the tunnels, he feels like a young man again. I thought this was interesting to share, if nothing else, because it shows that there are local people in the area who gain benefits from the site. It's not just a gimmick for foreign tourists. Much like the Pyramid of the Sun, there is a high concentration of negative ions in the tunnels, and perhaps this explains the positive health effects. The concentration varies in different areas. Near the entrance, it's about 20,000 negative ions per cubic centimetre, but deeper in the tunnels, this rises to over 200,000. Our guide said this was really beneficial for respiratory issues in particular, and definitely throughout the tunnel, it felt like the air was really clear and nice to breathe. Our guide also explained that the Schumann resonance is perfectly preserved in the tunnels. This is the natural frequency of the Earth's atmosphere, measuring 7.83 Hz. In the outside world, this has changed over the last few decades due to various technologies and atmospheric conditions. It is thought that when humans tune into this 7.83 Hz frequency, this can increase well-being and lead to improvements to mental and physical health. Sadly, our tour didn't include the other sites in the complex, like the Pyramid of the Dragon or the Temple of Mother Earth. And I should stress that everything we saw was really just a snapshot of all the discoveries that have been made over the years. So after all that, what's the verdict? Is the Bosnian Pyramid a scam or an unfairly maligned archaeological wonder? Before we get to the expert opinions, I wanted to share some reflections based on what I saw with my own eyes. To be honest, it all seemed pretty convincing when we were there. Every piece of information we were given was backed up by scientific analysis conducted by experts at some point. Of course, there could be some selective sharing of findings, so it's always good to fact-check these things. It felt like this applied most when it came to things like the various materials, their ages, and whether or not they were man-made. If you're not a geologist or something like that, it's hard to know what you're really looking at. Things may look like they couldn't occur naturally, but nature can be weird, so that's my main stumbling block, pardon the pun. Compared with other ancient sites around the world that are clearly man-made, the sites in Bosnia are more open to interpretation, and we're left looking to experts to weigh in on the materials and formations that may or may not be artificial. Of course, excavations in Visoko are still ongoing, so we can't see a complete picture yet. Taking a step back, I will say that the largest pyramid, the Pyramid of the Sun, does look very pyramid-y when you see it in real life. Not that this is proof of anything, but it does stand out. And it doesn't look a million miles away from how some of the pyramids in Mexico looked before excavation. A key element of the tour and the premise of the Bosnian Pyramid were the so-called concrete blocks that can be seen at the Tumulus and the Pyramid of the Sun. If you're not an expert, it's hard to ascertain whether this material is man-made concrete or naturally occurring conglomerate. They can look very similar. We spotted these man-made concrete blocks at a local beach, which we think were placed there to mitigate erosion of the chalk cliffs. And they look very much like the blocks we saw in Bosnia. A few things stand out when you see them in person. Firstly, the slabs seem to have a regular depth and consistent flat surface, despite being laid at an angle, and they appear to be in layers. To the untrained eye, this all certainly contributes to the impression that they could be an artificial construction. For me, the most interesting part of the whole complex were the tunnels. Perhaps there is a natural explanation for the tunnels themselves, perhaps water, but the blocking of the tunnels does seem as if done by man, and it makes you wonder why. It would have been no small undertaking, given the amount of rocks you would need and having to source and transport those. So that did seem strange. I'm not sure how I feel about the alleged runic message. It felt like we jumped the shark here. It was a bit too much like something from a movie. But this translation did come from a third party, so even if it is a bit fantastical, perhaps we can separate it from the other findings. Either way, we're asked to trust that the carvings in the stone were there when they were found. I'm not saying that they weren't, but this is just a big leap of faith. Especially when there doesn't seem to be any other instances of this language, or any language, anywhere else on the site. To my knowledge anyway. Something that's difficult to reconcile in Visoko in general is the range of different building styles and traces of different cultures, although you can see evidence of multiple civilizations at other archaeological sites. I think it's a shame we couldn't visit more of the Pyramid of the Moon. From what I've seen online, it looks like there are some really interesting areas we didn't see, where they've uncovered terraces made of much larger stones than what we saw. So long story short, these were the things that caught my attention, from a layman's perspective, seeing it all firsthand. But what do the actual experts say? The claim that what we're seeing in Visoko is an ancient man-made pyramid seems to rest largely on the interpretation of various materials and formations as artificial. If these are naturally occurring phenomena, analysis of things like the material's strength and porosity and carbon dating of the surrounding organic material is kinda immaterial. And unfortunately, several geologists have deemed the rock formations in Visoko essentially nothing to write home about. Some have said the pyramid shape is a natural formation known as a flatiron. You can find other hills and mountains around the world that have a distinctly pyramid-y shape. Robert Schoch, an American geologist who spent 10 days at the site in 2006, also claimed there was nothing unusual from a geological point of view. He said the so-called man-made concrete blocks were little more than layers of naturally occurring conglomerate. These, and the sandstone blocks, had broken down over time due to tectonic stresses and gravity slumping. He also dispels the myth that the regularity of features at Visoko meant that they are man-made, explaining that geology is full of regularities. So whilst the concrete blocks may look artificial to the untrained eye, to the trained eye, they may be nothing remarkable. His opinion, ultimately, was that there are no pyramids in Visoko, and he hints at a level of dishonesty in how things are being presented. Robert Schoch is well known for his controversial hypothesis that the Great Sphinx of Giza is much older than is traditionally thought, based upon water erosion that can be observed in the stone. He's someone who we can perhaps trust to challenge traditional narratives, where there is evidence to do so. He has also been labelled as a pseudo-historian or pseudo-scientist himself, so perhaps doesn't carry the same biases we might expect from the mainstream establishment. His dismissal of the Bosnian pyramids was therefore interesting to me. You can read a full write-up on his visit on his website. That all said, he lost me a bit in deferring to the opinions of Zahi Hawass as a pyramid expert. The largely disgraced ex-Egyptian Minister of Antiquities has claimed the structure in Visoko isn't a pyramid, but has never actually visited the site. He's also been tarred by allegations of gatekeeping and corruption, so isn't necessarily the first person I'd believe. In Osmanagic's 2023 book, he actually has a whole section responding to Schoch's comments, which is pretty interesting. It's available for free on his website, and it's worth reading for yourself so you can make up your own mind. Osmanagic essentially accuses Schoch of a surface-level effort to analyse and debunk what he saw at Visoko, and points to a trend of Schoch debunking other potentially ancient sites, like the Yonaguni underwater ruins in Japan. There also seems to have been some sort of funding dispute. Among other things, Osmanagic also claims that the orientation of the pyramid's sides and the directions of the slabs doesn't align with the known tectonic movements in the area. When it comes to the concrete, the Pyramid Foundation claimed that the artificial nature has been confirmed by 6 independent scientific institutions who have tested samples. But I'll leave you to make your own mind up on those fronts. Regarding the tunnels, various theories have been put forward to explain their presence, ranging from them being made via water, to them being an old coal mining facility, Roman gold mine, Yugoslav army hideout, or a medieval escape tunnel for royalty. But I'm not sure anyone has weighed in on why or how they were seemingly blocked up. There is a very detailed 200-page report on the tunnels on Dr. Osmanagic's website, covering the excavation process and findings. There are a lot more photos and scientific analyses in these, so it's worth digging into if you're interested. It certainly made me wonder about a few things. Let's turn to the observations of pyramid experts and Egyptologists. While Zahi Hawass has been a vocal critic of the project since the get-go, over the years several experts, some recommended by Hawass and the Egyptian government, have visited Visoko and argued that there are man-made pyramids there. These include geologist Dr. Ali Barakat, who was suspiciously dismissed from his role back in Egypt after his public support of the pyramid project, Dr. Nabil Swalim, who had discovered multiple pyramids in Egypt, and professors from the Faculty of Archaeology at the University in Cairo. On the flip side, the Bosnian pyramid has come under fire from members of the European Association of Archaeologists, who, in 2006, issued a formal statement objecting to the project, ostensibly out of concerns for scarce resources, among other things. Visoko has played a key role in the history of Bosnia, forming the centre of the medieval Bosnian kingdom, so there are also concerns that the project may have caused damage to the true archaeological heritage of the area. At the top of Visočica hill are the remains of the old town of Visoki, a royal castle town built during the 14th century, plus some earlier Roman ruins. There have also been allegations from a former employee of the foundation that the stones found in the underground tunnels weren't marked with inscriptions when they were originally found, but were added by Dr. Osmanagic's team. This has been refuted by Osmanagic, who said the claims were made by a disgruntled employee who wanted more money. I guess it's hearsay either way. So what's the real story? My bias declared, I really wanted this to be an ancient pyramid. I personally believe there is a lot more to the pyramids in Egypt and to other ancient sites than is conventionally accepted. I'm definitely in the camp that we're a species with amnesia to some extent. And I can totally buy that there could be an agenda to shut down the Bosnian pyramids because of the way they challenge the traditional timeline of human history. But truthfully, I'm really not sure either way. It's a hard one here because what I saw in Bosnia was, at the end of the day, hard to interpret without a deeper understanding of geological processes. You're left taking different people's words for things and trying to verify claims where you can, and navigating potential biases. And there were some things that crossed the line into fantasy, like the sci-fi rune message, but other things do seem genuinely puzzling. Of course, I only had a snapshot of everything going on there, we didn't even see all the sites, so there could be other compelling information that I've missed, and future discoveries may change things. As for whether it's a scam or a hoax, as many allege, I didn't get that impression. It all felt pretty genuine to me, our guide was great, and you really feel like they believe everything they're putting forward. Our guide was a local from Visoko who had grown up there, and she told us that she felt the pyramids and the creation of the park had generally been a good thing for the town. She reiterated several times that the foundation were first and foremost an archaeological and scientific organisation. They seem to tread somewhat carefully when it comes to the idea that the pyramids or tunnels can heal people. They make no official claims about this, but have shared some testimonies of positive health effects and some small-scale studies that have been done. You can, however, buy some healing water from the official gift shop, so it's also not a thing. I obviously bought some, so I will let you know how that goes. In any case, if you're ever in the area, I highly recommend visiting the site to make up your own mind. If you enjoyed this video, please do click the like button. I'm hoping to do more of these visits to strange sites to see what's what, these fringe field trips, see what I did there. So make sure to subscribe if that's your jam, and I'll see you next time.